Welcome to The Other Side of the Page, a bookish podcast where we yap about the books we love
and the songs that give us main character energy.
We're here to sift through the chaos that is our TBR.
And to let you know why a book just might be your next favorite read.
I'm Britt, dramatic plot twist lover and champion for MMCs needing to be more pathetic and down bad.
And I'm Hannah, reader of at least 5 books at once and a detailed fantasy map enthusiast.
Every Wednesday, press play on a brand new bookish episode.
And stay up to date with the books that we will be covering by following us on social media at Other Side of the Page Pod on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads.
And don't forget to follow, rate, and review the podcast with a shining 5 stars if you're loving it on your preferred platform. It helps us so much with visibility.
And for this week, we are chatting about We Live Here Now by Sarah Pinborough and the songs that we're adding to our bookish playlist.
Yes, we'll be deep diving our song choices alongside the plot, chatting about our favorite moments, and telling you why We Live Here Now should be moved to the top of your TBR. So grab an iced coffee
or chai
and let's turn the page together.
All right. Dear reader, here is our synopsis of We Live Here Now. After an accident that nearly killed her, Emily and her husband Freddie moved from London to a beautiful Dartmoor country house called Larkin Lodge. The house is gorgeous, striking, and to Emily, something about it feels deeply wrong. Old boards creak at night, fires go out, and books fall from the shelves, and all of it stems from the terrible presence she feels in the third-floor bedroom. But these things happen only when Emily is alone. So are they happening at all? She's still medically fragile. Her post-sepsis condition can cause hallucinatory side effects, which means she can't fully trust her own senses. Freddie doesn't notice anything odd and is happy with their chance at a fresh start. Emily, however, starts to believe that the house is being haunted by someone who was murdered in it, though she can find no evidence of a wrongful death. As bizarre events pile up and her marriage starts to crumble, Emily becomes obsessed with discovering the truth about Larkin Lodge. But if the house has secrets, so do Emily and her husband. And they live here now.
They sure do.
Yes.
They sure do.
So this book, before we go into why you should read this book, Britt suggested this one a while back because on our previous podcast, we covered We Used to Live Here, which was wild. Go
Crazy.
back and listen to that archived episode. And so creepy houses, even September House that we talked about too.
Yes.
Creepy houses, old houses, sign us up.
Totally
Not to live there, but to read about it.
Yes.
So why you should read this book. You should definitely read this book if you're into psychological suspense, exploring mysterious old creepy houses, and really secrets between couples and friends and all of that.
Yes. And you might want to avoid this book if any of the following are potentially triggering for you: murder, violence, sexual content, adultery, death, miscarriage, panic attacks, mental illness, also paranormal activity. So if any of that feels like it might be triggering for you, just double check yourself before you dive into this one. All right. So I feel like song choices for thrillers, mystery, horror are always a little bit different because it's very interesting to see what we pinpoint versus a romance or a fantasy where there's a specific type of plot that we can kind of cling to. So what song did you pick this week, Hannah?
I picked I Look in People's Windows by Taylor Swift.
That is a criminally underrated TTPD song. And I can't wait to hear your theme lyric. And I also picked a Taylor song this week. I actually chose My Tears Ricochet by Taylor Swift.
Okay.
I was between 2 Taylor songs. And the other one, I will tell you, I felt like I couldn't do because you picked it for the only one left. And that was Right Where You Left Me. And it just felt like it paralleled a little too much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wanted to hold it close for something else potentially. So, yep. All right. So we're moving into our Pages Turned and Bridges Burned section. And we're going to start with giving our theme lyrics from our songs and explaining briefly why we ended up choosing the song that we did. So, Hannah, tell us your theme lyric for I Look in People's Windows and why did you end up choosing this one?
So before I do this, spoiler alert, I'm going to be spoiling the ending right now. So if you don't want it spoiled, if you wanted to vibe with us and see, please pause, go read and come back because I'm spoiling it all right now. And it's not fun if you know this. So go read and then come back.
Correct.
But my theme lyric is, so I look in people's windows like I'm some deranged weirdo. And I picked this because, well, in this book, we have it felt very odd at first until like we kind of knew why. We had this like Raven chapter,
Yes.
which I thought was very interesting. But basically, there's like this bedroom that like you kind of like reincarnate, and
Yeah.
you're like the best version of yourself that you want, but your old self like stays behind and like watches.
Yes. You
In
get
the house. So
trapped.
like, yep. So like that's where, like we live here now. To me, that's what it meant. Like just all
Mhm.
these people looking. So why this song stuck out to me is because like, so I look in people's windows and it's just like them watching themselves move on with their
Yeah.
life. Like, and they feel like some deranged weirdo because they're like watching this, can't do anything about it, and just kind of like stuck there.
Mhm.
So that's my lyric right there.
Yeah.
What about yours?
That's a good one. That was such a good pick. I actually picked the lyric, "If I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too," from My Tears Ricochet. In part, the literal sense of like setting an object on fire to like set the soul free, quote unquote. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but specifically because there was a lot of like side plots of revenge and side plots of like, if I'm going to be hurting, then she's going to be hurting, or if he's hurting, like just this kind of back and forth in between. And I feel like it very much was giving, especially with Freddie and Emily's relationship, like a tit for tat. Like he did this, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this, and she did this, so I'm going to do that. And it really made the relationship feel very like quid pro quo. And I feel like a lot of the relationships in this book were transactional, and so it felt like just that lyric kind of tied together the relationship aspect of it. But there's a lot of this song specifically, and I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that.
Yes. So at the end of the synopsis, and kind of what I said too about like the secrets,
Mm-hmm.
that the house has secrets, and so do Emily and her husband.
Yes.
What did you think Freddie was hiding for the longest time? Because we didn't have it revealed until later. But what was your thoughts?
I feel like she was very much pushing us toward it being an affair, like
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt being an affair. So I think it was quite interesting that she like pushed us and almost pigeonholed us into that way of thinking, and then kind of like pulled a 180 and pulled out the gambling. I didn't necessarily think that, but also like I I know that you have a note here about it, and I completely agree. I thought for sure that he had tried to kill Emily by pushing her off that cliff too. I 100% felt that.
Yeah, I feel like that was just like underlying there the whole time. Like I didn't trust Freddie at all.
No, well, especially because the entire like back half of the book, he's like, I can't believe I'm contemplating staging a suicide for my wife, but I am. Like, now I know that a lot of that was stemming from the house. And the house, actually, I put a note in the outline too. It reminded me of the September house a little bit, in the sense that the house itself had its own personality, and the
Mm-hmm.
house itself was like an entity. It also was
Yep.
the same in The Only One Left. Like the actual house itself felt like it was a character in the book and a characterization. And this house felt the same to me. And then I felt like I couldn't trust once we started to pick up on the fact that, like, I personally never thought Emily was crazy. I never did. I always felt
No.
like she felt grounded enough, even given her like medical condition and the post sepsis stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't trust their emotions and their reactions to things, because it felt like they were being swayed. Like there was always this undercurrent of like, something is wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
something is not right here. And I think that she very much captured that like eerie feeling from the get-go, and it never quite let up all the way through the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't put it down. I felt like it was just, I wanted to know what was happening. Like, it didn't feel thrilling necessarily, like, throughout, but like you said, there was just like an undercurrent of like uneasiness of like,
Yes.
I just was like, what's going on? I
Yes.
don't trust it. Like,
And
what's going on?
Yeah, and it wasn't like I was sitting here like trying to unravel the mystery, because it was kind of unwinding in front of us. But the twist shocked the hell out of me. I never would have
Yeah.
guessed that
No.
like souls were reincarnating like upstairs.
Yeah.
And I know they had the story of the friend, and they brought him back, and then all of a sudden when he was reincarnated, he was no longer an alcoholic, and there were just so many pieces. But when it came down to Sally and Joe,
Mm-hmm.
this scene that it was like when Emily was watching the scene play out of Joe killing Sally. That tied into my song too when I heard My Tears Ricochet as I was going through some options. The you had to kill me, but it killed you just the same. Because in the end, again, like I said, it's very much if I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too. It's this tit for tat where when Sally finally gave enough information to Emily for her to kind of put these pieces together, and Sally had become this kind of like Stepford wife version of herself where she was completely fine with her husband being in an open relationship and, painting naked women in a very sexual way, not in like an artful way, and all of that. It like watered her down. And so you had to kill me, but it killed you just the same. And we find out at the end when Sally comes in and her soul is put back together. And then she goes and kills Joe. I don't know. It just feels very much like that. And also Emily dying and then Freddie dying. Like it was just, it felt that line specifically I was like, oh yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Well, even so, like my song starts out with, I died the tiniest death. I spied a catch in your breath. And so that just reminds me of like all these like tiny deaths, right? Because like they come back, right?
Yeah.
But, or even if you consider like Emily's accident and like her kind of dying. And that's why I was like, oh, did like Freddie buy this house to like bring her back? Like,
yeah.
Like I just didn't know. I'm like, who else could have like died and came back from this house?
Yes, and that ties in to also and you're the hero flying around saving face. And if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake? Cursing my name, wishing I stayed. Look at how my tears ricochet. And that whole thing gave me an aura of Joe and also Freddie, specifically his internal monologue, which I had mentioned earlier when he's contemplating setting up Emily's suicide. And he's talking about it all the time. But then he's going to swoop in like this hero, getting the money when Emily blackmailed Mark. And he was planning on being the hero in this situation. Like when he called Emily's doctor and set up appointments and said how concerned he was for her health after this accident and how concerned he was for these things. Like he was the hero flying around saving face with everyone, even though he destroyed everything with his gambling addiction.
Yeah. Oh, Freddie.
Freddie was pissing me right off. But then there were moments, even though I believed that Emily was together, right? But sometimes when Freddie would like walk in and nothing would be happening, I would be like, okay, am I now too believing a crazy person?
Right.
Like,
but I thought it was cool how like Sally was trying to communicate with Emily like through the books.
Yeah.
And like that I thought was interesting because they would like rearrange you and like the book you.
Yep.
Like you will die here or whatever it was, and the nail that kept coming back. It just so many like, wild things. It was good. I mean, the book is not that long either.
No, it's very short. I think it's less than 300 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just shy of 300. I will say that I feel like you're just tying right into my lyrics. So thank you, Hannah. But I put the lyric, I didn't want to have to haunt you, but what a ghostly scene, in regards to Sally putting all of these things in front of Emily so she could pick up on what was happening. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to have to do this, but this was really the only way that I could potentially get through to you with everything that was going on.
I think it's cool too, like how the book is set up. It's like me, us, and then them.
Yep.
I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I thought the ending was pretty crazy, like watching not necessarily watching, but hearing like the disdain shift in Emily's tone as she was watching someone who was partially her in her body, enjoying the better parts of life. And she just had to like be okay with it.
Yeah.
And just sit and watch.
Yeah. That's why like your song is really good. I really like that.
Thank you.
It just, I feel like the ending with my song, it just like stuck with me is like just being that observer and like wanting to be down there and like, like the song ends like, what if your eyes looked up and met mine one more time? And I feel like it just wants that to happen, right? Like that connection to be back. And
oh, and I can go anywhere I want, just not home. Like they're just trapped there. But this whole like the more times I listened to the song, the more I was like, yes, this is definitely my choice.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, you turned into your worst fears and you're tossing out blame, drunk on this pain, crossing out the good years. You turned into your worst fears. That house personified and really like brought to light the worst aspects of the people who lived there. And
Mm-hmm.
she mentions it at the end. I believe it's in Emily's perspective. I think it's in the them chapter where it says the house attracts people that are broken or have problems. And it's a very specific type of energy that the house is bringing in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you're cursing my name, wishing I stayed. Look at how my tears ricochet. Even just we're gathered here, we line up weeping in a sunlit room. Like, very just like this haunting aura about this song. And there's also, just in the way it's performed, specifically from the Eras tour, there's an undercurrent of feminine rage. And I think that that's really built in to Emily just being written off because she had this
Mm-hmm.
accident. She was in her coma. And of course, there are things that come along with it, but just not being believed. She wasn't believed about anything that
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah. No, definitely the feminine rage. And where I feel like in September House,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, she's losing it. Like she's losing it. I never
Yeah.
really felt that with Emily.
No.
Like, and I do love like the last line of the book,
Mm-hmm.
because they like tease their friends that like they always say like marriage is teamwork. So when Freddie and Emily are like up watching them and are watching themselves, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, Sally connected with me to my body and like brought me back, and maybe they'll do it. And they just end by like saying together like marriage is teamwork after all.
Mm-hmm.
And just these little like souls just up there.
It's so funny too because it's said with like such disdain for like their situation and each other, but
Mm-hmm.
they both kind of put themselves in that position, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
assumptions on their part on both of their sides.
But it's funny because like two sentences before that, it says like Freddie will never set me free if he gets out first, just as the same is true the other way around if I get out first. Like, so it just, this things never change.
That's literally the if I'm on fire, you'll be made of
Yep.
ashes too. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was never a winning situation, and you can cry out, claim that you've changed, you've done things wrong, but there's always that tit for tat in their
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And even in the friendships that they held close, like we found out with Kat and Mark, and we found like all of that stuff. Like there were so many secrets, like you said, the secrets kind of
Mm-hmm.
within all of the friendships. The Ouija board scene was one that was like very visceral to me.
Yeah, that was wild.
Very visceral. Were you a Ouija board user as a child? Or have
No,
you ever? Okay.
no.
Yeah.
I don't like messing with that stuff. I don't like it freaks me out, okay?
Yeah. I mean, I have,
So, but
if we're gonna have like a brief interlude about a Ouija board, we definitely played with them as a kid. And I will say that like in the bigger groups, 1,000%, like people were pushing them, we were trying to freak each other out.
yeah.
I am telling you, I have seen some shit. And granted, I have been susceptible to, if you don't believe in the paranormal, by all means, call me like send me to the loony bin, call me crazy. Like, that's probably a deeply offensive term, but like at this point, someone's going to tell me that. But I have been very, very in tune to the paranormal from the time I was a child until well into adulthood, like right now. And we used to play with the Ouija board, me and my friend Shannon specifically. And I actually just went to Shannon's bridal shower this last weekend. So very funny. Not funny at all, but we were using it. And I wish that I could erase this from my memory. And people again will tell us that we're lying. We definitely did something. We did not see it happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute and not listen to this.
So we were using it and we were like, oh, can you move the balloon that's in the other room? Hee hee, ha ha. Yeah, so the balloon literally traveled across the living room, went underneath the like the wall. So the wall, has like that thing up top that the balloon got stuck on. It went under that. It flew around us and it wrapped the string around the plant next to me 3 times in a row. Again, if you don't believe, you think I'm cuckoo, that is totally fine. But I'm telling you, I experienced that. with every fiber of my being, I experienced that, like 1,000%. Now, granted, do I regret being so frivolous with a Ouija board when I was younger? Absolutely. Like, I had no idea, you know, exactly what I was doing. I thought I was Piper Halliwell. I thought I was a ghost hunter. Like, I thought I was doing some shit. So like listening to that scene and like living in that moment, a very visceral reaction for me.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Very visceral. Like, when she lost control of her arm and like her arm just like went stiff and it was going like find it over and over again. Like, no. The letters on the glass coming in backward. No. Jail. Immediate jail.
Sally.
Sally, you know, she did her best. Sally really did. Sally she did her absolute best. And I will say though, like, it was creepy. It did creep me out in some points, but I don't think this book was particularly like horrifying. Like, it did not make me scared. I think it probably was meant to invoke like some fear. And there, like I said, some parts were very unsettling, but the book in general was just like an unsettling book to read and or listen to. It just made me
uneasy. Like, it wasn't like, we used to live here. I was freaked out.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't.
Yes, because we went too far. We went too deep into that.
Yeah.
We went too deep. Like, I don't think I felt fear. Like, fear has not struck me in a way than it did when I was alone dog sitting and I opened up Hidden Pictures by Jason Merkulik and I looked at the actual drawings and I said, no, we will not be doing that. We will not be doing that.
Yeah. There's a time and a place.
But yeah, this
like,
was...
on a side note, I used to love, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? But I could only watch it in the daylight. I would freak myself out.
So, and I used to read, like, Goosebumps and Michigan Chillers and stuff, but then I would definitely get, like, freaked out by all that fun stuff, too.
Such fun stuff.
All roads lead back to fun.
Nancy Drew and fun.
Which, coincidentally, the same thing.
I feel like we should, like, review a Nancy Drew book.
I feel like we must at some point. So funny. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I had a time with it. It was definitely enjoyable. It held my attention. I could not tell which way was up, where it was going, and I didn't know who to trust, which is interesting. I was very perplexed by the Ravens chapters until we got, like you said, to the end. And then it all connected and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the way it was written.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, those were kind of my vibes and my thoughts on We Live Here Now. And I really love my song choice for this one too. I feel like it was an unexpected choice, but as soon as I had listened, I said, wait a minute, I think this is it.
Yeah, no, I really like it. I know once I heard my song, I was not going away from it. And I feel like there's not as many lyrics as your song. Yeah. But I still, like, the vibe of it is just like being removed and wanting to be there and like looking for that connection with yourself instead of like, you know, somebody that you want to be with.
It's also kind of like a discordant song. Like, it has almost an unease to it as well.
Yeah. Because I'm like, it could be creepy, you know, like I just picture like Joe from You too, like looking in people's windows.
Yeah. But that was such a clever pick though, with the way that it's reflected at the end, like the trapped souls. And yeah, I just think it's super interesting.
Well, thank you all so much for turning the pages. If you're watching this, we have the special editions, like the edges. It's beautiful.
Hardcover.
Yes. So thank you so much for turning the pages with us this week. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Patreon, and join our newsletter to keep up with everything on the other side of the page.
Yes, and please, please, please drop a review and a 5-star rating of the podcast on your preferred platform and share it with your bookish besties.
Next week, I'm so excited to finally read this author.
Yes.
We will be yapping about Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan.
I cannot wait. She has been on my list for so long, and we're finally diving in to Kennedy Ryan.
Yes, I had FOMO when the book came out in this series.
Yep.
That I'm like, Britt, we have to. We need to go for it. So
absolutely.
Cannot wait to do that next week.
Yes, so we will see you then. And forever and always,
keep reading with kindness.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.